Yeah. And let's talk about like why should people wait until marriage? I've heard a really good analogy. So you think about like I explain it to the teens in this way because I do talk about the hard stuff with them because it needs to be talked about. I don't want them to learn about it like through the television or school or whatever. Like I want to teach them the biblical view of why we wait. So think of a fire in a fireplace, right? It's beautiful, it's warming, it does its job like what it's supposed to. It's a beautiful thing. Relate that to sex within marriage. It's a beautiful thing. Um there's no shame over it. There's no regret. Like it you can be fully vulnerable and it's a beautiful thing within the context of marriage. But think about going back to that analogy of a fire. When a fire gets out of the fireplace and catches your house on fire, it now becomes like a terrible thing, you know? And a lot of times sex outside of marriage, not a lot of time, there's it always can cause issues. Whether that's like I remember when we were having sex outside of marriage. Do you know the amount of times, and I know I'm not alone in this, that I was like, oh my gosh, my period's a day late. I'm pregnant. Like, and outside of marriage, that's a scary thing. Inside of marriage, it's a beautiful and exciting thing.
Hmm.
Or you also, I know where I fell short and I had an issue with it. So when you have that bond after you have sex outside of marriage, I then started putting Dakota first. And that's way too much pressure to put on a person. He is not Jesus. He is going to let me down,
Hmm.
right? And the pressure that I was putting on him when he let me down, it hurt worse than it should have. So there was that issue. And
Hmm.
so that was something that God had taught me, that summer where I was gone, like, I need to put God first. And when God is first, and we still do that in our marriage, I pray that over us every day that we will keep God first and our marriage second. And then, like, that the Holy Spirit will teach us to be good husbands and wives and parents. Um, but yeah, there's also, and then when you break up, like, it hurts a lot worse
Hmm.
than it should. Or when we are married, like you don't think about it when you're, a teenager or whatever, but like you don't want your spouse to be with anybody else. And like, yes, there's grace for that, there's forgiveness, like that is in the past, but still like there's all these things that you have to juggle with. So that's why I encourage people like wait until marriage.